Welcome to Michael Potts Formula One, where I talk about all things Formula One, but from a photographer's perspective. This is Testing Eve, that moment in February where all Formula One fans are super excited to see race cars on track for the first time after this long winter hiatus. Teams like to test in Barcelona because of the track's unique characteristics. It's a very generic circuit. It has a very long straight, lots of turny bits, which are quite technical, and quite a lot of undulation. There's a little bit of something for everything. There's the chicane, which kind of mirrors some of the street circuits, the 90-degree corners. There's an excessively long straight. There are uphills, downhills, sharp corners, slow corners, everything to prove that you've got a good race car or a bit of a pineapple. There are 5 things that I'm really looking forward to seeing at the Barcelona test. Number 1, new cars. Formula One has completely revolutionized the aerodynamic package for this year. That means that the cars are going to look and drive completely differently to how they did last year. Previously, a Formula One car would get all of its downforce by the air going over it. It would use a series of wings and winglets and turning vanes and all sorts of cunning aerodynamics to create as much aerodynamic downforce, pushing the car onto the road. The problem with that conventional form of aerodynamics is while it's great at keeping the car on the track, it's very, very bad about the air quality. So as soon as the car goes through the air, it punches a hole through it, and that air forces the car to stick onto the track, but it also disrupts massively. And if you think about all those air particles flying in different directions, the next car that comes along all of a sudden isn't hitting this wall of beautiful clean air. The air quality is just not there. So the downforce that they get going into the same patch of tarmac is a lot less, which makes it very, very hard for cars to follow each other. So quite often you watch in a race, there'll be 2 cars going down the track, one will be ahead, the other one will be a bit further behind, and the one behind will be gaining. And they're like getting half a second a lap, and they're really going to pounce on the guy in front. And then all of a sudden they get to within a second and they can't get any closer. This is because that disturbed air causes such an imbalance in the aerodynamics that the following car loses grip and loses drivability. To combat that, Formula One have decided to move to a ground effect aerodynamic philosophy. So instead of having these tuning vanes over the top of the car and forcing the air over it, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the air to come underneath the car, channel it through a series of channels that creates a sort of a suction effect. And that sticks the car to the ground. Now, the advantages of this, it reduces the dirty air, but it's also going to make overtaking a lot easier, in theory. So we should see more exciting racing, closer wheel-to-wheel action. There is a safety risk. This was banned in the 80s because, as you can imagine, if a car is using a sucking underneath it to keep its downforce, at the moment that the car lifts a little bit, that suction will disappear, and all of a sudden, all of that amazing downforce is gone. Well, the driver is no longer in control of the car. The other big change is the tires. The tires are moving from 13-inch, nice, big, fat, juicy tires, to 18-inch, which are much more similar to what we'd have on a high-performance road car. Really thin profiles and quite big tires. Point number 2, new liveries. Every year, the teams get to repaint their car. And this is quite exciting for me as a photographer because it's a new visual identity for each team. What I'm particularly looking forward to in Barcelona is the reveal of the Alfa Romeo. Number 3, the new driver lineups. This year, most of the teams have stuck with their existing drivers, but there have been a few rather major changes. The first one is George Russell. George is a phenomenal talent. He is a very, very, very special driver, and I think he's earned his right to race for one of the top teams. He's going to be up against Lewis Hamilton, arguably one of the best drivers of all time, and that's going to be a great test for George. We'll actually see how good he is against the best in presumably outstanding machinery. George's place at Williams has been taken by Alex Albon. Albon used to race for Red Bull. Alex has a chance now to restart his career. He's an exceptionally talented driver. He's got a lot of potential. The other change in the grid is at Alfa Romeo. They've gone for a completely new lineup of Valtteri Bottas, who's moving from Mercedes, and Guan Yu Zhou is going to be the first Chinese driver to compete in Formula One. Number 4, I'm looking to see how the cars behave on track. So when you're out taking photographs of cars, it's quite hard to know really how fast they're going, what lap times they're doing. We do have timing screens available to us back in the media center, but when you're out on track, you're basically just looking at how the car behaves. A lot of that can help you see how well the car is going to do that year, how a car handles in a corner, or how they accelerate, or does the driver look like he's having to fight to keep it under control. Number 5, the best thing about winter testing from a photographer's point of view is we get 8 to 9 hours of cars on track. Normally, on a race weekend, you may get up to 6 or 7 hours of cars on track over the whole weekend. Because you have so much time, you have a lot of opportunity to compose shots, to really think about your composition, different techniques. It's a really good opportunity to express yourself as a photographer. There's also great light. So in the morning, it's nice and wintry. The light's a little bit softer. It comes over the hills, shines through the grandstands. There's often a little bit of moisture in the air, which kind of makes it a bit richer. And you can get some beautiful, beautiful effects of the cars coming through with the light shafting down the side. As the day goes on, it tends to get a bit crisper, but still that kind of oblique winter sun angle. So you get some nice shadowing, some nice crispness on the cars with the new liveries, and that's going to look really gorgeous. And then as the day progresses, we start getting that golden evening light, and they're still on the track until 6 in the evening. So you get quite a lot of sunset opportunities. Turn 3 and 4 is quite beautiful, where you're shooting into the trees. The chicane, turn 14, 15 is beautiful. You get the light bouncing off the car as it kind of changes direction going through the chicane. Those are the main things that I'm looking for this week in winter testing. If there's anything I've forgotten, please do leave a comment below and let me know what you think I should be looking out for.